Hello, everyone. It is I, Shahada1571, creator of critically acclaimed artworks such as War in Libya and Saudi Russia. Today, I am going to teach you the sacred art of cartography and the wonders of making up outrageous bullshit in the span of minutes. With it, you can finally create unique and original content such as, What if Germany won World War II? Or, What if Germany won World War II? So grab your notes and reading glasses as I lead you all to glory in this tutorial called Number 1. Setting the scene. Before we head to the actual process of map making, we need to set up the premise and the base we are going to draw over. Solving the former is easy as pie. You can either scrounge at Wikipedia or Google for inspiration or even use your pre-existing idea as a basis. For the sake of the map, I am using the Rift War as the premise. Here, Abdelkrim was able to kick out the Spanish and French and formed an independent republic. With that out of the way, the only thing we need to settle right now is finding the base map. Since we are searching for map with great detail, the ones from the search results is not enough. Instead, we are heading to David Rumsey, a map gallery many people like me use as a source. To open the collection, just hover to View Collection and click on Browse by Categories. There, you look through a massive plethora of choices available. Since we are searching for a map based on Morocco, we just gonna do a quick search. Heading inside, we are going to search for a map from Pergamon Atlas for the amount of detail we need. And after selecting it, we need to download the base map. In order to do that, head to the Export button and download whatever resolution that fits you. After a few seconds later, it will eventually pop up and give you the results. But wait, the maps cover the entire Northwest, which means we have to crop it. It is a simple process. By heading to Paint, we can basically crop the entirety of Morocco SO. And there we have it. With the premise and base all set, we can finally move on to the actual procedure. Number 2. Tilling the soil. With the former procedure out of the way, we can head on to the intricacies of map making. First, load up the software. The canvas is already laid out, but since the shape of our base map is roughly square, we need to adjust the ratio in order to help us create the frame. In order to do this, head on the File menu and select Document Properties. Here, you can change the size based on your preference. After doing so, we can finally create some layers. Since we do not have the menu yet, you can either click Shift Ctrl and L or head to this icon below. Then, head on to the Layer menu. To add a layer, press this icon. Here, we are going to add the base map. To do this, hover on the first layer and drag your reference to the middle of the canvas. Easy, right? Now, we need to create the landmass. In order to do that, create a new layer and use the pencil function by either clicking F6 or having your cursor here. The function provides you with a decent amount of options. From the header, you can adjust from how the notes function to the shape of the stroke. But more importantly, you can set the smoothness, which I recommend tuning it to 32. On the footer, you can adjust the type of color in the fill and the thickness of the stroke, in which you can also set it from here. After that matter is settled, use the pencil and draw over the shores. Drawing over the coast, at first, can be a major pain in the ass, but give it time and you will get used to it over time. Next stop, we need to place some rivers. You could either fulfill them all or ignore the minor streams for the major ones. After that, we need to add the color fill, which is as simple as choosing the variations below, or you can open the Fill and Strokes menu by clicking here. This option allows you the colors through various means. You either can use a slider available in RGB or utilize something more complex like a wheel. But wait, we have not made the frame yet. In order to make one, create a new layer and head to this icon and form a rectangle. After adjusting the shape to fit the entire canvas, click right, duplicate it, and reshape it. And finally, hover both shapes and crop it by heading to the Path menu and press Exclusion. And there we have it. With a landmass fulfilled, we could head on to forming the political boundaries. Almost forgot. If you want to form the sea, just create a new layer below land and make another square shape. And if you want to copy the sea color from the base map, you can do that by pressing F7 or clicking this icon. Now we can actually move on to the next step. Number 3. Forming the borders. Arguably the most exciting part of the process, I am going to teach you how to set up the borders and symbols. In order to set up the boundaries, we have to know where it is. To find out, bring up the base map again by hiding all of the layers that cover it. Here, we can tell the extent of the entire country ranging from the east to the southwest. After this, head to land, duplicate it and rename the file to political as we are going to use it to highlight the territories. And finally, add some sub-layers like fill and strokes to help us carve up Morocco. After setting the sub-layers, put the stroke above the fill so we can see what we are tracing without being overlapped by the letter. Next stop, we are going to use the Noun River down south as a starting point. To use it without interrupting any assets within its respective layer, we have to duplicate it first. Then, head to Move to Layer and move it to Stroke. And do the same thing with a landmass by moving it to Fill. With that settled, start tracing the borders you want to cover. The process of tracing over the map can take up over 10 minutes or more, depending on the size. While irritating at first, it will eventually become a normal procedure over time. Then, switch the color of the strokes to fill. Now, hover over the shape you have made with a landmass we duplicated before. With it, head to Path and select Division. After this, delete the object beyond the shape and set the color to your liking. After carving the rest of the mainland with the same method, we can now head on to form the symbol. The process to make one is very simple. First, create a layer for the city symbol. Second, create circular shape and set the fill and strokes. Then, resize them to the appropriate ratio. And then, create a text for the symbol, which you can change fonts and sizes from here. Finally, hover over the two and group them into one, where you can copy it as much as possible. At this point, I have taught you the basics of map making. But since the map lacks depth, we shall move on to number 4, adding the details. Now that we have learned the basic intricacies of map making, the only thing we need to accomplish now is adding the details. Here, I am going to divide this segment into specific notes. The first topic we are going to deal with is the borders. First, add a layer named Borders and duplicate the political boundaries. After that is set, move the layer and set the strokes in whatever manner you wish. Now head to Edit Path or F1 as we are going to cut out some of the strokes. Here, we are going to cut out the shores by selecting one of the nodes on the edge. When hovering, select this function to break them into two on the nodes from the shores. After splitting it, delete all the nodes that stick around the shores. And finally, add two new sublayers by the name of Stroke and Dashes. Then, duplicate the two strokes and move them to each sublayer. For the strokes, you are going to reduce the opacity to 15, and for the dashes, head to the stroke style and choose whatever type of dashes you want. You can do this when making borders for other countries, especially if you are going to set the path alone. The second topic we will be dealing with is setting the diagonal lines around the sea. In order to make one, you need to download a third-party asset from this video below. After you are done downloading, create a new sublayer, duplicate the sea and move it to a new sublayer called Diagonal. There, you can set the diagonal lines by heading using the Edit Path function. The circle provides the direction of the diagonal line, while the square sets the size and spacing. The next stop is the meridian lines and equators. They are basically an indicator of latitudes for some maps. Making the former is simple, just set path and trace over the lines. Making the equator is a little bit different, however. When making a path, put a node in the middle of the lines. Then, head on to Edit Path, select the node in the middle and select Auto Smooth here to bend it. Conclusion. After adding the finishing details, make the export of the map by heading to this icon. Here, we could set the DPI or pixels and save location. Make sure you are exporting the entire page in order to avoid some mishaps. And we are done. This concludes my tutorial on the process of map making. But this is not the end for you, however. There are many maps out there you can use as an inspiration, ones that inspired me as well. Many of us started from humble beginnings, so don't wallow in self-pity and assume you cannot make it. You just need some confidence and self-determination to march forward. Goodbye, folks.